Per usual, everything else channels for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. Is Setup Sunday once again here post Thanksgiving. Hopefully all of the Americans had some excellent turkey time. Crypto collectively looks good. Talk about a bunch of alt BTC charts that have turned a corner on the cloud. A lot of very old coins popping up for whatever reason. Probably relative value plays. They've just been dying for so long that a lukewarm ball of money is rotating around in a bunch of them. But first on the legacy side with the dollar strength, which is what we don't want. It's what Trump says he doesn't want either. We'll see if that matters during his administration or not in the ways they may weaken the dollar directly. But just looking at the chart of DXY, we are once again holding at 106, holding at 107. Not something we want to see from a crypto perspective. We can deal with ranging dollar, nonsense chop dollar, turtle soup dollar, random walk dollar. That's fine. What we really don't want is dollar bullishness, dollar strength. So if this does break up for whatever reason, we're talking about potentially 112. And if there's anything that's going to put cold water on this party, especially for alts, it's going to be dollar breaking out. So we'd prefer the dollar to continue to get soft and weak and just range around 103, whatever, that's fine. Sub 100 is probably how we get into the 150s, the 250s for BTC. So that's a 2025 conversation. But first things first is, does this continue to break higher? And then what is the after effect? What are the stress cracks that emerge, if anything, on the risk side of the equation? We also don't want the 10-year exploding above 5%. On the liquidity side, because the dollar is so strong, global liquidity in the green there has pulled back quite a bit. Stablecoins haven't cared, specifically Tether, which keeps printing. You can watch the USDT USD pair on Kraken, which I'll bring up, to see whether or not Tether will probably keep printing. If Tether is far above $1, generally that means there's a bunch of demand for Tether, and you're more likely to see a print on Tether sooner rather than later. So as a sentiment gauge, the Tether price against the dollar is pretty good. So the question is, who's lying here, as they say? Do we just not care about dollar liquidity anymore or global liquidity anymore? Which probably isn't the case. But alts collectively in the blue have shot way up relative to global liquidity. And you can argue, well, there are times when there's a disconnection here. Global liquidity was rising, alts were falling. It's finally catching up to what was happening previously. There's some delay here. That's fine. But what we certainly don't want to see is the dollar continuing to rise to push global liquidity down. US liquidity, that's Fed balance sheet, reverse repo, TGA, that equation continues to fall. Hasn't mattered for alts here. But obviously what we'd like to see is, again, more liquidity, more better for anything and everything. And that may be a tailwind to watch for in 2025. For BTC on low time frames, we look great. We've held above the 4-hour cloud, which I had some concerns about. Really, this is mostly all Sailor buying. He's going to come out Monday and says he bought more based on some evidence, let's just say. On Twitter, he came out and said, we need more dots on whatever chart that is. But without Sailor on the daily, it's very likely that we've already mean reverted more than we have. It's hard to say how much he's helping and how much he isn't. There's certainly an assumption that he's helping a great deal here. What he needs is the market to push above 100 or more time to keep buying to bring price closer to 100. Past 100, we're setting up for a good breakout to, I think, 105 in short order. And we'll see what we get immediately after that. A couple weeks back at this point, we attempted to break down. Didn't actually happen, right? Thanks to Sailor. We hit the failed head and shoulders target, and this is relevant for the SOL chart I'm about to bring up. We hit the failed head and shoulders target, reconsolidated, did not break down on trend. We got our bullish TK crisscross. So the cloud gives all the blessings in the world on the 4-hour. It says, great. There's even arguably a inverted head and shoulders here. So this looks good, really down to 95, 94 even. I mean, this could get that low and still be fine. So we still look really good on the 4-hour. On the daily, we're settling into not being overbought anymore, right? Now we've got this TKC clamp setting up. The idea on this is the longer we stagnate below 100, the higher the likelihood that we attempt a mean reversion, dependent on the chart. Obviously, if the chart pattern is bullish, if we start printing ascending triangle stuff for another couple of weeks, that's more likely to break up. But what the TK cross, or the TK disequilibrium is telling you here is that we went up very quickly and we lost momentum, is what this is showing. The first trailing stop loss is the Tenkin, and not generally the best trailing stop loss. You can see right there, you trip a trailing stop loss a bit early there. The next trailing stop loss I would use would be Williams Fractals, which is the green there. A candle close below that level on the wick on the daily would be the trailing stop loss. So it gives you a little bit of a buffer zone. Between 90 and 92 is not something you want to see if you're bullish on trend. Anything above the resistance fractal, anything at new all-time highs is certainly printing a buy signal. And if you backtest this, you can say, okay, what happened last time? We had a similar situation. Here's the Tenkin in the blue. We rode the Tenkin up until the ETF launch. GBTC sold us down. This was the first time really that we broke the Tenkin in a big, big way, but you can see it gets pretty loose. I don't have the Williams Fractals on here, but this was also the Williams Fractal break. In February, March, we didn't break a Williams Fractal until like March 13th from February. So there certainly could be a couple months into 2025 where we don't trip a single trailing stop loss. And we certainly didn't trip a trailing stop loss on the Tenkin there. So to me, all this looks great. Looks great on the daily. Yeah, it's overbought. Yeah, we could go to 79, but that's a low likelihood currently. Trailing stop loss at 90.5 or something makes sense to me. And low time frames look great. On the high time frames, power law, we're not anywhere close to the end of the road here based on this metric. Got plenty of room. Historically, when we break the midpoint, that's when the party really starts. Happened in 2011, 2013, 2017, 2020, and we can delay it all we want, but we're in a post-halving year. We've got regulatory tailwinds. We've got potential liquidity tailwinds. The entire story is there on the fundamental side. And on MVRV, we are at 3, typically anything above 6, above 7, above 8, above 9. That's when we're in trouble. This is just market cap versus realized cap. And it is essentially looking at the amount of unrealized profit sitting on chain. So the greater the amount of unrealized profit sitting on chain, the higher the likelihood people are to take profit. And that level has been defined as 7 to 9 on the Z-score of MVRV. So we got plenty of room on that front. Before I go any further here, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro at the link in the description of this video. Non-investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Ventures Inc., PVI, DBA, Kraken. Now, if you would have told me that Ripple would be at 240, I don't think I would have believed you. Now, we had talked about this level for weeks. You know, it was a 2-second look at this chart. I had said, this doesn't interest me until it's above 66 cents or something like that. So the issue wasn't knowing the breakout and where the breakout would happen. The real issue here is holding this thing, right? I don't know anybody who traded this well. I got a piece of this, a 2x on this, and it's gone another 2x from where I exited. But the daily cloud hasn't told you to get out at any point, still says this is fine. But I think this is the wrong chart. And I know a lot of people are looking at this, and obviously it's up 300% in like a month. I'll take a look at the BTC chart, but I think there's some better levels to look for and watch rather than the USD chart. Tons of volume on this, by the way, on Kraken. Tons of volume. I don't know where it's even coming from. I don't know. I know in the past, the Robinhood volumes were routing to Kraken, through Kraken. It could be a bunch of stuff, I guess, right? But I don't know where the volume's necessarily coming from. But Ripple looks fine. I have no notes, nothing to say on the USD pair. Doge looks like it's ready for another leg here. I think the high time frame expectation is Probably $1. You know, Doge at $1, BTC at 100K. Sure, why not? Why not? ETH still looks totally fine to me. A few of these charts have this like rising wedge characteristic, and you'll get people to tell you rising wedges break up or why rising wedges break up in a bull market. That's possible and likely if everything else around it is bullish, but it's not there. And you certainly have to be careful acknowledging that if the market, for whatever reason, let's say BTC breaks 95 to the downside, ETH isn't going to just keep moving up. ETH is going to mean revert probably to 3,100, but it looks fine here. It doesn't look bearish at all. Looks great. High time frames. You've got cup and handle stuff, multiple versions of a cup and handle. You've got this huge cup and handle. You've got this mini cup and handle. It looks fine. No issues. So the problem isn't like, oh, ETH is bullish or bearish. The problem is everything else is doing laps around it. And with Sol, I'll get to in a minute, Sol looks extremely bearish to me relative to everything else that's breaking out. SHIB also looks fine. No issues there at all. Volume coming in on that. That's what you want to see. Meme coins continue to do decently well. Cardano, for whatever reason, continues to do fine. Litecoin continues to do fine. All these charts on the USD pair have been beaten down for so long that it feels to me like a lot of this is relative value rotation type stuff. So as long as it's above the cloud, I mean, even Curve, and we had talked about Curve a while back, tons of volume coming in with Curve. As long as it's above the cloud on the daily, it has a shot at doing something. You know, AVAX is another one, looks good. It's above the cloud. Who knows, right? Maybe, maybe it too, or whatever other alt can go up 300% for no reason, right? We're just in the funny money situation right now. You just have to be careful of any bearishness from BTC, and it doesn't look like to me that BTC is bearish at all. What's odd here is that Sol is so bearish. Now you could argue that this is still neutral. You could argue that Sol did very well when everything else didn't do so well. And again, this is like a relative value rotation play. Now Sol's not going to go in the opposite direction of BTC, but I can't look at this chart and just assume everything's going to be okay. This to me looks like a head and shoulders all day. This doesn't need to break down. It's going to have a harder time breaking up. If it does break up, if BTC breaks 100, Sol will probably limp to 300 eventually. That's where this measures. Head and shoulders measures to 200-ish. Failed head and shoulders measures to 300. All you're doing here is you're taking the depth of the pattern and measuring up and down. The pattern itself gives you the bias in a vacuum. But again, if everything else around it is bullish, I don't expect Sol to magically just break down. But I certainly wouldn't be max long Sol here, just expecting a miracle. So that's a bit strange to me. But again, Sol was up 10 million trillion% when, you know, Ripple was still flatlining, right? Even ETH BTC on the daily, not bullish yet, but we may see an inverted head and shoulders form here. We may see an eventual bullish TK cross. Right now that's bearish. This may get back into the cloud, right? There's a lot of good things to watch for if you're bullish ETH BTC into 2025. The cleanest trade would be make the right shoulder, get the bullish TK cross, flatten out the cloud, and then push through the cloud in 2025 with a bull trend. In 2025, ETH does best in the first half of the year based on seasonality. Sol's a bit of a conundrum. I own 0 Sol here, but where I want to own lots of Sol is anything up here on the Sol BTC chart. This is an ascending triangle. This may fail. This may succeed. I have no idea. But as a breakout trade, I like this up here. I do not like this down here. I don't like buying support. I know that sounds insane, but I don't. I want this to show me that it has the momentum and opportunity to keep pushing higher, and that may not be into 2025. So as not exciting as this looks today, the eventual outcome might be 01, but I don't like this until whatever this level is on the Sol BTC chart. Doge BTC looks great, keeps pushing higher. You know, it's like, yeah, we know. Thanks, Josh. On the daily, there's really no analysis to be done. You know, you were hoping for this in March. You're hoping for this on any chart ever that looks like this, that's down for a year and breaks the cloud for the first time. March was a disappointment, obviously, because it broke out and then immediately gave it all back. This time it broke out and it kept going, right? So you don't know. I mean, let's look at Q4 2022. Same thing, right? It broke out very quickly and then gave it all back over the next year. Broke out, gave it all back. It wouldn't surprise me if eventually this gives it all back. It's just not anytime soon. So what you always want to watch for is the breakout and then the breakdown. We're not nowhere close to a breakdown on the cloud here. So this looks fine on high time frames. Link BTC, today might be the day that it finally is above the cloud for the first time. Again, the cloud doesn't know or care where this goes. It's just telling you we've made it through resistance. Good things happen above the cloud, bad things happen below the cloud. If you're trying to pick the turn, if you're trying to pick the trend reversal to the day, this is exactly what this looks like. This was potentially Doge, Doge went to infinity, right? This was Doge back in at the end of October. Again, I don't know where this goes. The cloud doesn't know where this goes. But as a trade entry, this is exactly the type of thing you want to see. Price above cloud, bullish TK cross, bullish cloud. All that's happening within the next 24 hours, most likely. LTC, BTC are a little late, but again, 2 years of down. So is the LTC chart bullish in the past week? Sure. But against Bitcoin, it's been down only for 2 years. So I sound like a curmudgeon, but if you pick the bottom, great, on the BTC pair, and this could keep going, right? All the more reason to not care about the USD pair. If you're not beating BTC, what's the point? If you're finally able to beat BTC, then it may be worth broadening out a little bit. Atom, same thing. Similar to Link, similar to LTC. 2 years of down, attempting a move higher. It was a disappointment at the end of last year. No clue what's going to happen here. All I know is this is the type of thing you want to see for eventual bullish continuation. And now that brings me to Ripple, which has a history of violent repricings, both up and down. It is currently tapping the middle of the range, levels last seen in mid-2023 on the BTC pair. This is a decade-long channel. Previously, from 2018 to 2021, it was down only. 2021 to a few days ago, it was down only. So if you're able to trade that, great. Awesome. You're doing very well. But the people that have been holding this the entire time haven't had profit maximization in mind, right? I don't know what percentage this is that it's still down from the BTC all-time high, but this is certainly a significant mean reversion. XLM, the exact same thing, all the way back to the middle of a decade-long range. AVAX looks okay against BTC, starting to break out. This is what you want to see. You got that in October last year, and then it gave it all back. So it's basically starting again from where it was in October 2023. Cardano is another one that has a history of just violently moving up and down, has a history of consolidating at this level for multiple years. It wouldn't surprise me if this doesn't move higher until like 2025 December, right? Like, sure, it could keep going. It might be different this time. On the weekly, it may have a harder time making it through the cloud. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Doesn't have a bullish TK cross yet. That's why I'm a little hesitant here to expect continuation. But it would be interesting if you got the same fractal at this level that you got from 2019 into 2021. Algo BTC also in the cloud. No bullish TK cross yet. But a lot of this stuff is just bouncing, and we can go down the list. HBAR, right? Just sold off for 3 years. Just 3 years of down. Finally, mean reverting to levels from 2022. TIA is another one I've been watching. It looks like it's ready to break above the cloud. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But I'll be there if it does. And it looks fine. No bullish TK cross yet. You have a multi-month channel. I know a lot of people were watching this for whatever reason. Definitely one chart that you want to stalk and hunt like a jaguar. Not necessarily this pair, but anything that looks like this. I mean, I'm looking for cloud fractals. This is the type of stuff I like to see. Filecoin also above the cloud against Bitcoin. So there's a lot of stuff that is bouncing quite a bit. And I think where people get into trouble is they don't trade it with the BTC pair in mind. They trade it with the USD pair in mind. And if it's hitting some obvious level like Ripple at wherever this stops, and people keep trying to long it, they'd certainly be losing against the benchmark. But that, of course, is not what people want to hear. all they know is that they're up 300%. And if you just got here like 2 days ago and you long Ripple, absolutely, that's a hero, amazing trade. Congratulations. But the people that have been sitting in this expecting this move are the ones that probably should have been doing other stuff for the past decade. On the legacy side on MSTR, we did have a Kijun bounce. I am completely unsurprised that price pulled back to that level. Just in a vacuum, this could keep going based on that alone. It fully mean reverted, and it may chop around, it may bounce, it may do nothing. I don't love it up here. I prefer to watch the premium to NAV. Sailor's going to keep selling that down, most likely, as long as it's above 1, as he should. That should be the expectation. He also needs to keep selling to break 100K. So at the end of the day, it's a win-win. But if you're sitting in this now, eating the downside, if that's what you want to do, just like the Ripple people, right? Like we can pull up the MSTR BTC chart. It's not bearish. It again bounced at the Kijun. We're not getting any massive warning signals here, but it may take some time to reconsolidate and push higher. This happened in October. Same thing. We tapped the Kijun and then kept going. So it is what it is. Some people like the miners, some people like MSTR, some people like Ripple, like we'll do whatever you want to do. What do I care? I just don't see an amazing setup here. And then if we plot this against just 2x BTC, this to me looks like a potential head and shoulders, potential bearishness relative to 2x BTC. And it's had a great run. That's the other thing. It's already up 3x, or at least it was, against 2x BTC since March. So I'd either like the MNAV slightly below 2, or this to break down, or the USD pair, MSTR, whatever, just to break some massive capitulation. I just don't see a great reason here to jump into MSTR. And that is probably wrong, right? It's probably wrong at the end of the day, because if we break 100K and Sailor keeps issuing convertible bonds, whatever, right? Like it just keeps going, but that's not what the analysis is telling me to do. The analysis is telling me just to stay away from it for the time being. WGMI BTC, same thing. This is mining ETF against BTC. Is there a trade here? I don't see it. So you'll have to let me know in the comments, but this basically has been down chop. Now you could draw a massive diagonal line in each of these highs and wait until we're above that diag, which may happen. Hasn't happened yet, but that's where I like it more. I don't want to sit in the chop here. And that's just against 1x BTC. Against 2x BTC, from a relative value perspective, it's better to buy it here than it was just a couple weeks ago. But from a trend perspective, it's certainly not bullish. I like buying resistance. That's just what I do as a breakout trader. So I like this pair at 0.7 rather than this level. And just for those playing the home game, I like BITU over BITX. From a trading perspective, it's just there's more trading history for BitX than BITU. And you can pull out an individual miner, IREN against BTC. It kind of tells me the same story. We're not quite there yet. I like this slightly higher rather than here. That isn't to say it might go straight up from here. It's just on trend metrics, it doesn't quite make sense to me down here against BTC. Coin, there's clearly something trying to consolidate here. Now, Coin has traded closer to ETH than BTC, closer to ETH than Sol. So if ETH breaks out to 4,000, Coin should break to like 400 or 500. So it's definitely the correlation to watch. But this looks fine. I don't see any bearishness here. It's trying to consolidate in a bullish fashion. If we want to take this to the nth degree and we look at 2x coin divided by 2x ETH, this probably favors 2x ETH over 2x coin. But again, some people love coin, some people love ETH, whatever. Pick your poison. Lastly, Square. Chart still looks great. Cloud still looks great. Price still looks great. I have no issues with this. Probably not the fastest horse, but still likely does well in 2025. So overall, I'd keep an eye on this 4-hour BTC chart, see if we break up. And if we don't, can we reconsolidate above 95? That's the key. Eventually, this should break 100. That's the other thing. It might take a little time. If it fails in December, it might take us into Q1, but eventually it should break. And then I'd expect us to continue thereafter. But the issue is, again, then we get even farther away from the Kijun. The mean reversion stuff comes into play even more. And we are kind of headed for a similar situation in February, March, where you've got people in March calling for whatever they were calling for price-wise. We're going to see that again if we break to like 110, right? That's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.